Hi, I'm Reverend Lori. Following this introduction is a discussion I had with my friend KK, who is living with stage 4 endometrial cancer. I know we're all going through a lot of difficult things right now, and so I decided to have a talk with my friend. She always encourages me. I remember that when my condition was touch and go, she called me in the hospital from her hospital room where she was undergoing yet another cancer treatment. She just wanted to convey to me that she knew what I was going through. She encourages me, and I wanted to talk with her right now because I think she will encourage you as well. She has certainly faced her dark night of the soul, and it's my experience that a lot of people who have walked in those spaces aren't afraid of anything much, and that inspires me. This is part 1 of our discussion. We're going to try to do a part 2 in a couple weeks. She has chemo next week and will need some time to recuperate as best she can. This video is about our faith journey through our times of uncertainty and includes our occasionally off-color humor, as well as specific signs and symptoms of which to be watchful. So I encourage you to prohibit younger children from watching or listening to this interview. And I've heard it over and over from patients and medical staff that when you work in or experience those moments, you develop not only an oeuvre of medical terms you never thought you would know, but also a really warped sense of humor. I apologize, but not really. I can't speak for KK. After doing this interview, I'm feeling like I need to put on a tie-dyed shirt, light some candles, listen to some Zeppelin. Anyway, here's our discussion about fentanyl-induced hallucinations, God, funky Satan, faith, cancer, and the most important, survival. Blessings. So I'm interviewing my dear friend KK Aragon. She's been through a lot, and I just feel like um, her testimony, her story, all she's been through, that people need to hear that right now. And so she's gonna talk about her story and how she came to be where she is now, and her faith journey, and some of the difficulties that she's gone through. So you want to tell your age? Yeah, you said it was okay to tell your age.
Yes, my name is KK Aragon. I'm 52 years old. I live in Cypress, Texas, about 30 minutes out of Houston. And I live here with my daughter, who is 20, and my beloved husband, who is also 52.
Her husband is beloved. He is right up there with my husband.
Yes, he is. You tell him I miss him too.
It's true. But and I wanted to make sure and tell people that KK's mom is the one I talked about a couple weeks ago in his sermon. She's the one that used to babysit Patrick Swayze.
Now, what you forgot in that sermon is
What's that?
that he used to call her chipmunk cheeks.
I didn't remember that. Maybe I blocked it out.
That's what Patrick called my mom, chipmunk cheeks.
Hmm.
And so she hated that about him.
That's not very Christian.
She always got a kick out of it. I got called the same thing.
Oh yeah, this yeah. If for people who didn't watch it, I talked about the scripture where Jesus was without honor in his hometown, and KK's mom used to say she never could see Patrick Swayze as a grown-up sexy man because she used to babysit him, and I equated, yeah, Patrick Swayze and Jesus, but yeah. So KK has, I mean, how long's it been? You have stage 4 endometrial cancer.
Well, that was September. No, I'm sorry, February is when I had the surgery. And I went in the day before I was supposed to have the surgery. I went to the ER because I was throwing up so much. I could not stop. And it was just projectile vomiting. And I mean, I got in my husband's car and the the place where your feet go and it, up to where the wind door goes, it was full.
God.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to make this funny. And yeah.
And he asked me, "Do you still want to go?" And I was like, "Yes, just take me. I'm covered in throw up." And I'm like, "Just take me to the ER."
God.
And he took me there, and I had to stay on a gurney for 12 hours in the hallway, throwing up in a, puke bag. And they were like, "I'm so sorry. There's nothing we can do until you're scheduled tomorrow." So I finally got in, and the surgery was about 12 hours. And when they thought it was originally, what had happened was I had an appendicitis, went in, and they said, we see a tumor behind the appendix. So we're going to go ahead and take your appendix out and see what we can see. And that's when they found the tumor. They thought it was on my liver when they first did that. But when they got in there for the surgery, it was actually on my diaphragm. So they shaved it off of my diaphragm, slapped Vortex on my diaphragm, and then clipped away the part that was hanging on. It was like weighing down my liver. So they
Wow.
were clipping it off and away from my liver. And they have to take a little bit more than they would normally take when they do a surgery,
Hmm.
just because they have to get all of the cancer around it. They cannot leave anything or it'll spread, you know?
Yeah.
So that was it. I was in ICU for 22 days, 21 days. And I got into a regular room and stayed there for 2 days, and then I got to go home.
Mhm. And you've
Now,
been you've been kind of struggling at home too, though. You're still dealing. I know. We've
well,
discussed this when people want. We've discussed this, but we're trying to make it sound original. So yeah.
so it wasn't just a surgery. I had surgery, and then I had chemotherapy, and I had carboplatinum taxol, which is the strongest form of chemo known to man. I had 9 rounds, and then they started me on Avastin or something like that, and it keeps new blood cells from forming. So I have to take that every 3 weeks. They repoison me to make sure that no new tumors grow and form. So I'll be on that the rest of my life as long as I keep surviving.
Hmm.
I'll be on that.
Yeah.
And that's lovely. It's not as bad as the carboplatinum taxol, but
Really.
my toenails are splitting to the quick. My fingernails are splitting to the quick. I have mouth sores on each side. My
God.
tongue is split in the middle. I have neuropathy all over my body, and I have gout in my feet, and I have 2 knees that need knee replacements because they're bone on bone. but I can't have any surgeries.
Wow.
So there's no more surgeries for me. If something happens, I'm in deep doo-doo because there's nothing, I can't have any surgeries. There's no way that I could survive it without getting off the chemo. Getting off the chemo would kill me. So.
But this isn't your first round with cancer, right? When were you first diagnosed? How old were you? And what was the diagnosis then? And how did?
It was in 2010 that I got diagnosed. It was 3 months after my father passed away. And that was really rough because he had been sick for so long. And we really saw him suffer, you know. But we were all with him when he passed away. And then 3 months later, I got invited to join a new band, and I was singing with them. And I had always had unusual periods. They were never normal. So when I got a menstrual cycle that lasted 3 months, I went to the gynecologist. They ran some tests and immediately told me I had endometrial cancer.
Wow.
So that was in 2010, and it was on the uterus lining, but it was on the outside of the wall, and there was cancerous cells coming out of my fallopian tubes.
Wow.
So they did a total hysterectomy. They removed all 37 lymph nodes up and down my chest, and all robotic. So I was upside down for 12 hours. And when I got out of there, my forehead was red from here up. I looked like somebody had colored me with a red marker.
Aw.
It was from being upside down for so long, you know. That's like the bloodletting in the medieval times.
Vampire surgery.
I'm sorry, I'm here for another bloodletting. I have
Yeah.
cancer. Thank you. Just join me.
It's not even a metaphor. Yeah. So God. So that was in 2010.
I did get a port this time.
Oh, nice.
It's underneath my skin. Can you see it?
Just a little bit. Yeah, I can see the
Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't have to be shot every time, so that's
Oh,
good.
good.
So I'll keep a port forever for the rest of my life. I may have to change it to the other side one day, but hopefully this will keep working as long as we can keep it.
Does it irritate?
No, what actually hurts is the opposite side, which is weird, but it may be due to, just the way it's placed. But it's like a little triangle, and it has a tube coming out the middle of it that's super tiny. And the butterfly needles that they use, that's what they use to give you chemo with. So they take it and they bend it, and then they push it in, and then they administer your chemo. You may get a bag of saline if you're dehydrated. The first time I did it, they'd given me 2 bags of Benadryl, and I stopped breathing. I couldn't breathe. And so they came over, put oxygen on me real fast, because all I could do was whisper, I can't breathe. And my nurse, Shakira is the best chemo nurse in the world, man. She keeps me alive.
You still
There
have
are other
her?
nurses in there too, but she's my favorite.
Oh, everybody has a favorite. I know. I won't tell you mine. So then you went into remission, or did you? So
I
then
was
you
in
had.
remission for 8 years, but I had to do, from the first time, I had to do chemo, the carboplatinum Taxol, but I only had 3, and it was every 6 weeks. And then I had radiation treatment in vaginally. And so that was fun.
It sounds great.
The first time they did it, I was like, God, can't you put some Barry Manilow and light a candle? I thought my nurse was going to drop
Yeah.
to the floor when I said that. But
Barry
yeah,
White, Barry Manilow, somebody. Yeah.
Barry White. He's got the little sexy voice.
Yeah, that's nice.
You're going to edit that, aren't you?
No, that's the best part.
Uh-oh.
Now, what would you tell people to look for if they thought they had symptoms?
Well, my symptoms were, like I said, I had bled
Long
for 3
periods.
months straight. So if you have periods that are off, you need to go to your gynecologist and find out why.
Well,
And
you might
I
have
had
thought it
done that
was.
all my life. I had started going to a doctor when I was 16,
Mhm.
and they never diagnosed me with anything weird.
Huh.
Uh, so it was just they couldn't figure out why. They put me on birth control. It made me gain weight,
Yeah.
but it regulated it for a little while, but it really didn't work on me,
Hmm.
you know? So, and I knew from early on, I know this sounds strange, but God had told me early on when I was little, playing with my small world toys, that I was going to adopt, I wasn't going to give birth.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that from when I was little. I don't know why, I just did. So I always knew whoever I was going to marry that I would adopt someday. So I knew I wasn't going to give birth to any children. So I knew that there was some major issues going on that I had to get worked out. I mean, you can't just live life, keep bleeding. It's like I said, it's
Yeah.
the bloodletting.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
It's just not a good idea. Yeah,
Um,
that's.
as far as other symptoms go, just really bad cramps and feeling very fatigued and tired, losing my stamina like a choo-choo train running out of steam.
Mm-hmm.
And I really stopped moving the first 2 years after surgery, after the hysterectomy was rough on me. So I'm doing better this time than I did last time,
Mm-hmm.
because last time I really did not move for
Oh.
about 2 years. I just froze in pain. But I eventually started moving around some, and uh, we got to have some fun with the band, and we got to sing at a bunch of places and recorded a CD, and so that was all a lot of fun to me. And I did a lot of painting and expressed my my traumas, because anytime you go to the hospital, it's a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
You're being taken out of your environment, taken away from the ones that you love. You're being set into a new setting with total strangers, and you're given medicine to make you be calm and out of pain.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes those medicines can have adverse effects, or you can hallucinate greatly
Yeah.
on those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a very vivid hallucination with God and Satan. And so it was right after my surgery, and I was in ICU, and the um, the nurses had gathered around me, and I could hear them talking outside my door. And this is right after they had pulled it wasn't after surgery. I was on the ventilator for 17 days. And so they took me off the ventilator, and they were worried about my lungs collapsing. So they said, we got to watch her tonight. It's going to be touch and go over the next couple of days. We got to really pay close attention to her. So that night, I had a really mean nurse that just thought that provoking me would make me recover faster.
Oh.
It didn't. It just made me mad.
Mm-hmm.
But and it hurt my feelings. I was really sad about that. But he was a really mean nurse. But anyways, he would walk by my room and cough and go, I bet you $50 she dies tonight. And
Wow.
I'd be like, what? Are you kidding me? So I'm like, look, dude, you could come in and kill me in the middle of my sleep and I wouldn't know any better. And he said, yeah, but I'd lose my job. And
Wow.
so that was our relationship
Hmm.
while I was there. So he didn't
Wow.
come into my room, the other nurses did. But I was in my room and that I could hear, he had his speaker on in my room. So I could hear everything that he said. And
Wow.
he could hear everything that I said. So I was watching TV, and at first I was watching sad stuff, and I was like, sad about it. And he was like, "Why's she crying in there?" So I thought, okay, whatever. I'll switch it around if I'm bothering him so much. So I put it on I Love Lucy. I thought this is great, and it was right on my husband. Well, first of all, my husband's from Brazil, so he speaks Portuguese, and there's been a lot of times that my husband has spoken Portuguese to me when my mother's in the room.
Oh.
So it was the I Love Lucy scenario where
Right.
Lucy had invited her mother to go on vacation on a cruise with Fred and Ethel. And Ricky was mad and didn't want her mother to go. So I was laughing my butt off, and my left lung collapsed. So they all rushed in, and then and I'm not paying any attention to them. I'm watching I Love Lucy. They're
Wow.
poking and prodding on me all over the place. I'm laughing my butt off still. I can't stop laughing. And so they're like, she's watching I Love Lucy. And then it popped back, and I was fine. And so they said, that's weird. Never seen that before. Okay, so let's keep an eye on her. She's all right. She's just watching I Love Lucy. Well, I thought, okay, so the next thing that came on was the Golden Girls. And it was the episode where the Golden Girls, the very last scene is where uh, Rose is talking to B and telling her, I can't believe that we survived and Sophie didn't. And Sophie's daughter says, yeah, what happened to Ma? And they're all frozen heads in like a robot shell. And they're talking at the dinner table. And Rose, uh, her head pops up over the counter. And they said, Ma, you made it. And she says, no, haven't you seen anybody pick up a knife before? And she stands up and she's still got her whole body and everything is still working and she is fine. And so I was laughing so hard at that my right lung collapsed that time. So first it was the left, then it was the right. So they all rushed in again. Oh my God, she's going to die on us. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. So they get out. Now, the reason why I started watching these shows is because I saw Satan in all his glory stand with his trident at the end of my bed, at the foot of my bed, and he was laughing. So when I was watching the sad shows, I was like, this is sad. And now, oh my gosh, here's Satan. And so all I could do is just pray. I prayed the Lord's Prayer. I prayed the Apostles' Creed. And I said, I rebuke you, Satan, in the name of Jesus of Nazareth, get
Wow.
thee behind me. And so those are the three things I repeated over and over to myself while I was laughing. But I thought the only way I'm going to beat Satan is to laugh. I got to laugh. Here's this dude, he's painted his body with red markers everywhere. He's got these horns that are half sticking out of his head. He looks just, I mean, come on. The guy looks funky. He's just,
Funky, funky
he's not
Satan.
right. I mean, he's one of the fallen angels that must have really hurt when he fell. That's all I've got to say. It must have
Oh,
really hurt.
well, you said something about the Shroud of Turin too.
Yes, yes. So while I'm laughing about that, I look up at the ceiling and the Shroud of Turin is floating down and it lays upon my face and my whole body and it lights up uh glowing like an angel would glow. And I just kept praying and laughing and praying and laughing. and telling Satan to I rebuke you. And I had a rabbi, a Catholic priest, and a Asian priest come in and talk to me, pray over me, cleanse my room. Well, the rabbi didn't cleanse my room, but he prayed that the demons would flee, or something similar to that. And they all gave me great comfort. So I felt a whole lot better. I was able to sleep after I talked to them.
Wow.
And because I was really scared of Satan.
Sure.
I mean, I know he's funky looking and everything like that, but when you're in that fentanyl format, that they didn't give me morphine, which I react fine on morphine. They gave me fentanyl, and that stuff is nasty, nasty, nasty. It just makes you have some, if you're prone to dark thoughts or that they may seep in, it's not the drug for you. So I pray. I'm a Christian. I believe in God the Father Almighty. I believe in Jesus Christ as my Savior. And I knew that God wasn't going to save me by his hand alone. He was going to save me here in my mind
Wow.
to calm my spirit, because all I could do was think. I couldn't move my body. I couldn't, do a lot. I'd been on the ventilator for 17 days. That's unheard of because your lungs stop working, So it was a miracle that I came out of all that. Now, recovering from the surgery has been, like I said, easier. I've moved around more than I have with the other one, but I still have days that I stay in bed, that my feet hurt too bad, my knees hurt too bad, can't get around, walk around. I live upstairs, they live downstairs. They take care of me. Lexi's bedroom is upstairs. Michael sleeps with me because I can't roll over. When they did my surgery, they autopsied me. So I got a big cut here, and then it goes down here, and then it comes down across the other side of my stomach all the way down to my waist. So it's they really opened me up.
Literally, that's not a
Literally,
metaphor.
they really opened me up, and they had to drill a niche in my rib for the drain tube. That didn't feel so good. And when they pulled it out, they didn't feel so good. And then when they pulled the ventilator out of me, my brother was sitting right next to me. And of course, I'm on fentanyl still. And I'm just there, and he's sitting by me, and we're both crying because I'm so sick. And I can't talk because I got the tube down my throat. And she yanks a tube out of my throat, and I just start, I love you. I miss you. I need you in my life more. I don't ever want us to argue again. I don't want us to ever be mad at each other again. I want us to just, be together and share the joy in being together. And they were clipping my drain out of my nose, and they clipped my nose. So now I have to get a little plastic surgery done on my nose, or just live with the little niche here. Which is so funny because my grandmother had plastic surgery on her nose, and it messed it up so bad that she had to wear tape on her nose all her life. So it was really funny that to me and Darren that, not funny, but, it's weird. You got the same stuff that Great Nana did.
Wow.
So that
Yeah,
was
I
kind of
know.
fun.
I know. When that you want to say the thing, make sure you say the things. Um, I remember thinking that how can I just bless everyone? If this is the last thing I'm going to say to someone, what would I want to be the last thing I would want my child to hear? What would be the last thing I'd want my husband to hear, my mother to hear, the nurse? There was, that was on my mind when I was in the hospital.
Well, that's why you're the preacher and I'm not.
I don't know. You're doing a pretty good job, but like
I just kept thinking when I got my tube out of my throat and I was talking, I'd heard what happened to you on the pulpit, and I had to reach out to you. So let's share our story. I'll let you tell it.
oh well, yeah, I had been sick for years, and I knew KK had been sick, but I'd been to I tried to count. I think it was 9 different doctors, and they had diagnosed me with food allergies, food sensitivities, maybe Crohn's. I'm like, what 220-pound woman has Crohn's disease? I don't think that's right. And I got so I would swell up and I just
Mm.
felt exhausted. All the things you said. And I got so I couldn't eat anything. I would eat and then I would drink something, and I would go to the grocery store and I would get different kinds of drinks. I couldn't eat solid food. And the day after Thanksgiving 2018, I collapsed. And my husband and my son took me to the ER, and they told me I had a virus and sent me home. And 2 days later, Keith actually preached for me that Sunday. I found the sermon he preached just today. Actually, I hadn't seen it since then. And he took me back to the ER. Finally, well, what happened? I'll just TMI, but you want people to know the symptoms. They helped me to the bathroom, and I passed out on the toilet. And my son saw what was left in the toilet, and he went and got his dad. And my husband's an RN, and they saw that something was wrong. So my husband had worked as a night supervisor at a nursing home, and he had seen it before. He said, he came in, he said, we got to get you back to the ER. That diagnosis was wrong. You're bleeding from your upper intestines or something there from. So they would carry me 8 feet and then have to stop and then carry me a few more feet and then lay me down. And they finally got me to the ER, and they found out the next morning an upper GI showed I had actually had a tumor in my stomach that had been taking up 2/3 of my stomach, and it had
Mm.
been bleeding for years. I had certain symptoms, and I thought maybe it was menopause. And it turned out the day after Thanksgiving, they don't know how long the tumor had been there or what caused it. They said my system makes too much acid. And
I remember you telling me that.
yeah, and it had been, I know it had been bleeding for a long time. I would lay down at night and I would wake up and I would smell weird. I said it smelled like being like a bovine smell or something. And the sheets would be brown from the sweat. In that scripture where it says Jesus sweat, as it were, great drops of blood. I've wondered if maybe I was bleeding, and I would wake up in the night and just and couldn't place what was going on. Well, the tumor finally ruptured, and they say I lost over 60% of my blood supply. So I was at the local hospital, and then they took me by ambulance to Yale, and I had a fantastic surgeon who no one could get into, but he volunteered to do it because I was going to die. And they did a laparoscopy. It was funny. You and I were showing each other our surgery scars the other night. That's how old you get. But yeah, then you had been through it, so you called me. I remember, and it really helped to talk to someone who had lived through it. Yeah, but I also had a similar experience where I was um, when my son was in the hospital, and we didn't know how things were going to turn out. And one night I was in the room, and I was sitting with my Bible, and I was reading the 23rd Psalm, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. And I was, very prayerful, and something just came over me, and I said, honestly, KK, what went in my mind at the moment was, I was reading the 23rd Psalm, and I remembered that old joke, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because I'm the meanest son of a bitch in the valley.
Dad would have loved that.
And and it's occurred to me, I thought, I am not without power. And maybe I need to quit focusing on death and think about being powerful. And I remember I stood up and I went to the door and I just said, I speak to whatever is in this room, get out. You're not welcome here anymore. And I could just feel it when I said it. And I didn't see anything like you did, but I just sort of personified whatever this was we were going through and just sort of spoke to it like, no more. From now on, I'm not going to sit and concentrate on the valley, the shadow of death. And I just went over to my son and I just began to tell him I love him. And I thought about, there's power in telling people you love them. There's power in love.
Well,
And yeah.
when you think about, you say God's going to heal you. When Jesus was healing people, what do you think he did? What did he say? I know he had to speak words over these people that he healed.
Well,
So,
he supposedly said, your faith has made you well. But I think he's just trying to make the people feel good. Because I think they all got healed because he was Jesus. You
right?
hear you hear ministers say if you have enough faith, you'll be healed. I think that's BS. I
Yeah.
think, you know, Jesus healed those people because he was the Son of God, not, I mean, statistically, if all that many people get healed.
Now, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Did God heal you or did the doctor heal you?
I think I look,
Because I get asked that a lot. And my answer to that is God healed me
through
through the
the doc.
doctor.
Yeah, yeah,
It was not God that healed me. God worked through the doctors and the nurses that were taking care of me, and that's how I was healed. So when you go to the hospital, make sure you have a great patient advocate. That is
yeah,
the number
yeah,
one thing.
yeah,
Somebody to stay with you the whole time.
yeah,
They booted
yeah.
Michael out of ICU. They
Wow,
would not let him stay because
wow.
I would get too upset. I was so mad. They had strapped me down with straps and I tried to kick a nurse in the elevator. But like I said, I was on fentanyl and I didn't mean to, but that was a whole was that I tried to kick him in the elevator. So he
I
didn't like
thought
me too
I
much.
thought you were going to say you tried to kick him between the legs, but in the elevator.
Actually,
Okay.
I tried to kick him in the ribs. I was up on a gurney, but I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
give me that fentanyl, and I just thought, why is Michael letting them do this to me? I've
Mhm.
never been strapped down for a surgery before in my life. Why do they do? Well, they were strapping me down because they were going to intubate me,
Mhm.
and I can't pull on the tubes.
Yeah.
So they strapped my hands down, and that's the way I stayed
Mhm.
for 17 days.
Oh my God. You were strapped down for 17 days?
Yeah.
Jesus.
till they
Wow.
till they were ready to pull the cords out. They kept me strapped down.
Wow.
The day they were taking the stuff out, they had unstrapped me earlier that morning before Darren had come over. And I know Teresa was with him, but I don't remember seeing her. I
Mhm.
just remember focusing on Darren that day. And then Kevin, my other brother, he came up later on, and he's so funny. The first time I had cancer, my brother came over to my house. I lived way out in the country. He
Mhm.
drove all the way out there, brought me pizza and salad. And I had a red bandana on my head. And I walked out in my little prairie dress, and he said, "What you got a bandana on your head for?" I said, "Because I'm bald." He said, "No, you're not. Let me see." He ripped that bandana off my head so quick. "Yep, you're bald." He threw it back in my face, got back in the car and said, "Enjoy the pizza," and left. Kevin, love him. Darren, love him. Can't live without him.
Well, yeah, that's
That
family's
was
a
another
huge
big
help.
thing for me is that I had missed so much. I'm a survivor of three major back surgeries, and the between the second and the third surgery, I couldn't even walk. I was in a wheelchair. So I've had lots of illnesses in my life
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
that I've had to survive. And we were talking about it the other day, and I think it's 10 major surgeries that I've had in my lifetime. And
How
I'm
old
52,
how old were you when you had the first one?
20.
Wow.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, you've just always been a testimony to me. And like when you called me in the hospital, you made me laugh so hard about
Well,
those.
what was the first thing out of your mouth to me? Damn, you sound so sexy. That
And
smoky, sultry voice.
that's right.
Wow.
I said you had a Kathleen Turner voice. Yeah. Yeah. But I also wanted to ask you about your faith. Were you brought up United Methodist, or how you have such a strong faith? And I wondered what your faith journey was. Sorry, went from.
You know what started that? My mother was a dance instructor.
That's
And
right. For Mrs. Swayze, not Casey, Swayze.
yeah,
Hmm.
yes, Patsy Swayze and my mother had dance studios together. And so they choreographed many shows. And my mom always wanted to be one of the Rockettes, but she was too short. So
Chipmunk cheeks. Yes.
she just taught. And but my mom was a great dancer and a great choreographer. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or not, but anyways, uh, she taught at Cypress Methodist Church. And so while she was teaching, I was in her womb dancing to the music. And then I was in my playpen dancing to the music. And then I was running around the church with my stuffed animals dancing to the music. And then when I got a little bit older, like let's say 6 or 7, I would put my stuffed animals in the pulpit. I mean, in the pews, and I would stand at the pulpit and I would preach to my
Mm-hmm.
stuffed animals.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought I was going to be a preacher someday. That's why I went to college. But that didn't work out for me,
Mm-hmm.
Lori. I'm a creative mind. I can't do schoolwork. It doesn't work for me. I'm not book smart. I'm totally a comedian and a singer and a writer and a painter. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I am.
But if you knew how many times someone has, when I've gone to speak somewhere, and someone came up afterwards and said, if you ever decide to stop preaching, you should really consider stand-up comedy.
Right?
I thought,
Right.
and I remember thinking, oh crap, those are actually preacher, stand-up comedy. They're actually a lot the same. There was sort of this epiphany of, oh no, maybe I really am called to preach.